Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another video for Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and today I want to talk about my top 5 Rajang weapons. Of course, with Rajang being added to the game, there are 14 weapons, there is one for every single weapon archetype, which is awesome, and they all look very, very cool. It is nice to see there are no bone or iron variants, they are all very nice original designs, and some of them are actually really good. Yes, admittedly, they might not necessarily have the best sharpness, but there's definitely some things you can play with. They got a lot of nice raw damage, they have a little bit of thunder to work with. Generally speaking, they are still pretty good weapons, and for some categories, they are very good. However, in this video, I've basically chosen 5 on a couple of different categories. Some of them are statistically very good weapons that you should definitely consider using. Others are just here because of sheer cool factor, and let's be honest, in a game like Monster Hunter, there's 2 reasons you use a weapon, right? You either use a weapon because it's very good and it's going to kill the monster super fast, or you use it because it's just a badass weapon and you want to look cool in the process. Both of those situations are fine, you should never be judged for either of them, and I have in many times in my monster hunting history chosen weapons just because they look cool. Alright? Anyway, with that being said, I first want to turn my attention to the dual blades, right? The dual blades are here purely because of cool factor, right? These are fists. We've had kind of like claws before. You look at like the Nogigante ones and, you know, they're these kind of like crazy cat claws. They look really cool, right? But these are fists, right? I've always wanted fist weapons as like an actual weapon archetype in Monster Hunter. Like imagine if they were not like a super fast weapon, but also not like a super slow weapon, kind of like a sort of like mid-tier, like boxing glove kind of weapon, and you could even have like the way I picture like fist weapons working in Monster Hunter. I appreciate this is a massive detour from the actual topic at hand, but imagine if they were fist weapons, they dealt impact damage, you literally went and punched monsters in the face, and I think that you should even have like a guard for them, and maybe even a guard point, where like you can hold your hands up, kind of like in a boxing stance, you can guard point, and you can then follow up with a counter attack. I mean, imagine that, that would be so crazy in combat. And the fact that Rajang actually has fists as dual blades, I mean, it kind of makes me want to go and throw on an impact mantle and just melee a monster's face, just so I can live out that sort of boxing glove weapon mentality. Anyway, that's kind of it. Dual blades are just there because it's probably the closest I'm ever going to get to fist weapons in Monster Hunter. Moving on from there, I want to talk about the Charge Blade. The Charge Blade was always going to make it into this list because the Charge Blade was actually one of the first Rajang weapons I made. In fact, the first Rajang weapon I made in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. It is one of my favourite weapons, I just love the design, but this is a good weapon for 2 reasons, right? Partly it just looks cool because when it's on your back, you got the darker body parts of Rajang with the golden Super Saiyan fur, but this is also nice because it's an impact type. I know I have kind of professed the greatness of like elemental charge blades, and they are still amazing in Iceborne and I really enjoy using them. However, if you do still like the impact playstyle, you do still like KO monsters, this is now, technically speaking, your highest raw damage charge blade, at least kind of out the gate, right? I mean, yes, admittedly, you take the Acidic Lavinus one and you throw Elementless into it, it will of course still slightly outperform that, and given that this does have Thunder on it, it's not hidden, you can't throw an Elementless into this. But this is still basically a very high raw damage charge blade, so if you do like the impact playstyle and you do like just running raw damage, you've got one of those like attack stack builds, you've got things for, you know, impact, you've got of course things for like KOing, you've got artillery in there, all the good stuff, you can definitely still get a lot of mileage out of this weapon. So, you know, while it might not necessarily be the go-to weapon, you know, you might still end up leaning more into your Acidic Lavinus options anyway, this is something that if you like the weapon, you like the design, you feel like a change of pace, you can still use this, do great damage, because it is still a very viable option. Moving on from there to number 3, this was always going to make it into here as well because I'm just a Sword and Shield fanboy. I love Sword and Shield, right? It is, I know for the longest time I was like known as like the Charge Blade guy, but Sword and Shield is always going to be my number 1, right? I just love it. I think it's because I'm a huge Zelda fan and like anytime I use a Sword and Shield I feel like Link. It doesn't matter, right? This is really good because this is, again, the highest raw damage Sword and Shield you can use right now. Yes, it does have a little bit of thunder. It doesn't have a great deal of thunder, so it's not really going to be the go-to if you want to make an elemental build. And while yes, Sword and Shield is typically a weapon you use more so for status and element, given the speed at which it attacks, it is also a weapon that has a lot of raw damage potential, especially with that new Perfect Rush combo. You can kick out some really good numbers. Like I've got some pretty high raw damage attack sets that I use for Sword and Shield, and some of the numbers, when you get like a nicely lined up Perfect Rush combo, are insane. So when you factor in this weapon, you can kind of ignore the thunder. Yeah, sure, it would have been nice if it was hidden so you could throw in Elementalist, but you can't. But either way, just forget the thunder in this situation and run this purely for the raw damage, this is now a very, very nice weapon for that exact reason. So I run this with my kind of typical set that I put a screenshot of this up on Twitter the other day. I might actually show this in Mix Up Monday next week because some of you guys have been asking about it. Basically, I just stacked as much attack and affinity as I possibly could because the new armor pieces are really good as well. Like a couple of the Rajang armor pieces are definitely going to be meta, like the helmet and the waist pieces, but honestly, this as a raw damage option is very cool. Plus, from a sheer cool point of view, it's just like, sword and shields are normally quite small weapons, but this is just a hefty, massive club, a huge shield. It's crazy. So yeah, I love this one. Very, very cool weapon. Moving on from there to number 4, this one has to be mentioned. This is good from a statistical point of view. Rajang has given us our first wide level 6 gun lance. Now, I've already said before, typically a normal gun lance player. I just like the full burst playstyle. It's just, there's nothing more satisfying than kind of just like pulling off that full burst combo. Yes, it is high commitment. Yes, of course, it requires a larger window, so it isn't necessarily always viable. And of course, to the experienced gun lance players out there, they'll tell you that wide is typically the most reliable damage output. It is one of the ones where, you know, it doesn't necessarily have as high commitment, and also you can get good sustained damage out of it. So typically, wide has been the preferred playstyle. However, up until this point, wide has always capped out at level 5. Obviously, if you go to normal, you can get level 6, and there's also long level 6. But now, thanks to Rajang, you upgrade to rarity 12 and it is a wide level 6 gun lance. So for that reason alone, just from a pure damage point of view, this is actually become a very viable weapon for gun lance users. And then finally, in number 1, again, this is here purely for cool factor. I mean, it does have good damage. Again, it's good, nice, high raw, but the hammer. The hammer is here, absolute number 1, for one very simple reason. When you charge the hammer, it goes into Super Saiyan mode. Like, it's funny because when I saw this in the smithy, I was like, it looks alright. It's kind of like Rajang's face. Didn't really think much of it because I'm just kind of going through making all of them. I've made pretty much all the Rajang weapons now. And when I charged it, I was like, no way. This is amazing. This is like, it literally goes into Super Saiyan mode and it applies both ways, whether you just hold it down to charge or whether, of course, you buff up the hammer with the new move. Then, of course, it kind of remains in that state permanently, which is kind of cool. But the fact that it goes into this charge state purely when you max out at level 3, I mean, that's just really cool, right? That is reason enough to use this hammer. Pair that with, again, the fact that it's got some nice high raw damage, you can definitely make this work. So this is 100% going to be a hammer that I use a lot, and I've loved hammer in Iceborne. Honestly, it's become one of my favourite things to use. I played through half the campaign using hammer just because it was so much fun. So this is for sure going to be something that I mess around with. It is kind of a shame because after seeing this with the hammer, I was like, wait, what else has got a meter? Maybe like the longsword does something. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Maybe the switch axe does something. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It does seem like the hammer is the only one that has this Super Saiyan mode. So it's kind of exclusive, and for that reason, it's in this list. Of course, outside of that, there are plenty of other cool ones as well. The hunting horn looks kind of like a Gillette razor, but either way, let me know in the comments down below which ones you guys like the best, which ones are your favourite Rajang weapons, and of course, keep it locked for plenty more Iceborne videos. I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget, you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.